You've been hearing us perform on the saxophone. Now we'd like to take the instrument apart and show you a little bit about how it works. So the top part of the saxophone is the mouthpiece, and that's not a popsicle stick. It's actually a piece of bamboo taken and shaven down very thin so that when I use my air to blow in this mouthpiece and read, it sounds like this. It's rather a high crowing sound. And then the next part of the saxophone is the neck, and the mouthpiece and reed and neck sound like this, and it's rather a lovely sound. And then all put together, the saxophone sounds like what you've been hearing. So we go from a high squeaky to a nice full saxophone sound. And the reason for that is a scientific reason. It's the science of sound, or acoustics. Can everyone say that? Acoustics? Acoustics! Very good. And it teaches us that when we hear a sound, what's actually happening is there are waves, invisible waves, flowing through the air, and they tickle your eardrum. Have you ever taken a pebble and thrown it into a pond, or a toy and thrown it into the bathtub? You know the waves that it makes? Well, the same thing's happening in the air. If you had a pair of magic glasses on, you can actually see these waves flying through the air. And if we ask Harry to stand up and play his baritone from the top all the way down to the bottom, his lower notes would actually create waves about 10 feet long. We're going to ask Harry to remain standing and play a melody that requires him to move his fingers very rapidly. Flight of the Bumblebee. This song is a tone poem, and what a tone poem is a piece of music that describes something. And in this instant, it describes a flying insect or a bumblebee. That's the sound of one bumblebee. Here is the sound of a swarm of bees. Now we'd like to play this piece in its entirety. It was written by Rimsky-Korsakov in the 1800s for a cordless screwdriver commercial.
How many of you have heard of a music called Ragtime? Not the movie. How many of you have seen the movie The Sting with Robert Redford? Bet all the adults have. We bet you've all heard the theme music from that movie. It sounds like this. Ragtime is music that as Americans we should all be very proud of. It's the first art form that was invented right here in our own culture as opposed to being imported from anywhere else in the world. That music was written by Scott Joplin, one of America's great composers and one of the first great ragtime composers. He lived from the middle of the 19th century until 1917, and he wrote The Entertainer in 1904. This next piece he wrote 2 years earlier in 1902. It's called Elite Syncopations. If you were growing up at the beginning of the century instead of the end of the century, you would have been listening to ragtime, dancing to ragtime, and watching ragtime videos on MTV. However, not all ragtime was happy, fun dance music. Some ragtime was very, very serious. We're going to play an example of that serious ragtime right now, and we need your cooperation. Everyone sitting up straight in your chairs, feet flat on the floor, or as close as you can get them to the floor. No talking, no smiling, absolutely no giggling. This is from 1935. It's by Zez Confrey. It's called Birds Carnival Remember. No smiling. We will be watching each and every one of you.